Protest and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shining flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right.
Happy Martin Luther King Day. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so guess what? You be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DRNIIQ. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and boom, bam, boom, I pop right on up. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never, ever, ever miss an episode. We devote quite a bit of time curating a show just for you, just in time for afternoon drive time. And so be sure to do that. As I mentioned at the top, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is a MLK Day like we haven't seen before, because it's also Inauguration Day. We'll take that back. We did see it before. We saw it before. I think it was in 1997 when Bill Clinton was inaugurated. I think it was the last time MLK Day landed on Inauguration Day. And today, an inauguration for the ages. We'll have plenty of time to get into that. But time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, Biden preemptively pardons Fauci, Cheney, Milley to protect against Trump inquiries. USA Today reporting that just hours before leaving office, President Biden issued blanket preemptive pardons for potential targets of President-elect Trump in an unprecedented move to shield some of the incoming president's top foes from criminal prosecution. Those given pardons include Anthony Fauci, Dr. Fauci, former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, retired General Mark Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and lawmakers and staffers from the House committee that investigated the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. Remember that. Those lawmakers include former GOP representatives Liz Cheney of Wyoming and Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, as well as California's own Senator Adam Schiff. Now, Biden said in a statement, these public servants have served our nation with honor and distinction and do not deserve to be a target of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. You might remember that Trump had called General Milley a traitor. He criticized Fauci for the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember that? And he said that members of the January 6th committee should be jailed for investigating him and calling him the central cause of the riot on the Capitol that injured 140 police officers and temporarily halted the counting of Electoral College votes. None have been charged with crimes. This is a really important point to bring up. None of these folks that were pardoned had been charged with anything, but all were believed to be among the targets as Trump promised retribution in his second term for his political enemies. The pardons covered unspecified actions from January 1st, 2014 through Monday. And so really just, right as he's leaving office. And then just minutes before he hands over the presidency to now President Trump, he also pardoned members of his own family. It's not just Hunter that got pardoned. Uh, his sister, his brothers, a number of his family members got pardoned, and I'm sure folks are going to be critiquing that in the days ahead. Moving along, TikTok creators, uh, don't have to wring their hands anymore because it looks like TikTok is up and running. We're going to talk a little bit about uh, the TikTok charade, as I call it. TikTok charade. We're going to talk a little bit more about that soon with some experts from the industry. We're really going to take our time and really sort of dive in to all of the activity that's afoot on the tech front, on the AI front, on the TikTok front, because there are some TikTok shenanigans afoot, I suspect, and we're going to unpack all of that. But speaking of packed, Trump is signing executive orders in the packed Capital One Arena right here in Washington, D.C. NBC News is reporting that Trump signs the first executive orders of his administration. He began signing a slew of executive orders soon after taking the oath as president today, looking to quickly implement his agenda with plans including declaring a national emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, ordering construction on his border wall to resume. Y'all remember that border wall? It's coming back. It's Border Wall, the sequel. And terminating diversity programs in federal agencies. The first order he signed before a crowd at Capital One Arena revoked approximately 80 executive actions that have been signed by former President Joe Biden. Yikes. He also signed a freeze on new regulations, as well as a hiring freeze on federal workers. And Trump also withdrew again from the Paris Climate Treaty. This is just hours after being sworn in. When he was done signing the orders, he threw some of the pens he'd used into the crowd. The orders are a part of a broad plan that is expected to include more than 50 items in total signed by the new president following his inauguration, as he seeks a quick day one start. Trump will sign more orders when he returns to the White House after leaving the evening rally. So he is at an evening rally at the Capital One Arena. He's going to go back to the White House and going to sign some more orders, more executive orders. And a lot of people are keeping an eye on what he intends to do around birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship has been understood to be required under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which states, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. The end. The end. Democrats and some legal groups have vowed to challenge in court any Trump attempt to do away with birthright citizenship, but that may very well be on the chopping block as far as President Trump is concerned. And just sticking with immigration for a second, because I know that this is a very important issue to so many of our leaders, learners, listeners, and so many of the communities that hear our show every day. The New York Times reporting that the Trump's deportation plan, it could start this week in Chicago. That's right. The incoming administration is planned for a post-inauguration immigration raid, or I'm sorry, post-inauguration immigration raids, plural, in Chicago. This according to two people familiar with the planning. The plan, called Operation Safeguard by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, would start tomorrow and last until the following Monday, although the dates are still being finalized. The size of the planned operation was unclear. ICE routinely conducts deportations in cities throughout the U.S., but the agency was taking additional steps to ramp up enforcement for the operation and tied it to President Trump's inauguration and a message sent to personnel through the agency. And so, they promised shock and awe. That's what he said he would do on the campaign trail. And we're not even 24 hours into Trump's second term. And already we're seeing a lot of shock among people who've been working on these issues for a very, very, very long time. When we come forward, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to take a closer look at Trump's inaugural speech today. There's actually been a lot of speeches as of late, at least certainly in the past few days, between the now former president, Joe Biden, and our new president, Donald Trump. When we come forward, I'm really excited to welcome Michael Franklin. He is a presidential speechwriter, and he's a founder and executive director of Speechwriters of Color. We're going to dig into the inaugural speech. And look, whether you watch the speech, read the speech, or not, we're going to give you a digest of what was in it and what was worth noting. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk. More we come forward.
A lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs
are you joining me right now?
Give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at tra.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose. And millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50.
Hit me! National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I'm really delighted to be in conversation with one of my favorite speech writers to talk to. You know, when I knew when I figured out exactly how I wanted to approach this year's inauguration, which is unlike any other, I knew that I wanted to be in conversation with Michael Franklin. He is a genius speechwriter and communicator. For those of you that are less familiar, he is founder of Words Normalize Behavior. Tell me about it. Words Normalize Behavior, and he is here with us today. Welcome, my friend. Welcome,
hey, and happy 2025. Thank you for having me.
Happy 2025. I think there are a lot of things on our bingo card related to Project 2025, but I suspect there were some things in today's inaugural address that may not have been on our bingo card. But before we get to that, a little bit of breaking news I want to share with our leaders, learners, and listeners. It appears that Marco Rubio has been confirmed by the United States Senate. He is confirmed to be our next Secretary of State. The Republican-led Senate hit the ground running today. And he sailed through with a vote of 99-0. I mean, you know, when's the last time we saw a number like that in the United States Senate? Obviously, with cooperation from Democrats, the GOP leaders really moved quickly to bring Rubio to the floor for a vote, and he certainly got it. This caps off his 14-year career in the Senate. And who knows what the future may hold for him. And so now former Florida U.S. Senator Marco Rubio is now our United States Secretary of State. What a day, Michael. And so let's kick this off with the speech, the inaugural address, Trump's inaugural address. What really stood out to you in this speech, certainly compared to his last inaugural address?
And so I think one of the differences today is that there wasn't just one inaugural speech that he ended up giving, but we ended up getting a bit of a 3-for-1 deal. We ended up having him at Capitol Hill, where honestly, like what really got me is that the stamina was really bad. Like it felt very lethargic, very meandering, and seemed just kind of pretty bored. I mean, he slipped over even saying the Department of Government Efficiency, and like that low energy was a bit uncharacteristic, but then again, it's been 8 years. So like many, there's going to be some aging and a bit of trouble from that speech. But we saw some of that energy come back for some of the speeches later in the day where it wasn't as scripted and he got to focus on taking attacks and jabs at everybody and their mama, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to just sort of pick up on that thread in terms of just the tone of the speech. You're right. It did feel lethargic. I wondered, was he out too late last night at some of the inaugural balls? Was he up too early for church? I don't know. But, I wasn't sure how much of it was, maybe a sign of an aging Trump as opposed to, him trying to purposefully take a less confrontational tone in that inaugural address. I mean, if you close your eyes, he didn't exactly sound like the same Trump that we have heard on the campaign trail and that we have seen year over year until late.
Yeah, and I think a part of it was probably strategic in terms of being a bit less confrontational for the speech that would have more eyes on them and most folks tuning in at giving the speech at the Capitol. But then we just saw the Capital One Arena speech where it was more of the traditional rally, lots of the attacks, lots of the very unflattering, uncivil conversations. And I think it's a reminder that no matter how you dress up the form of what's being said, those same arguments and those same positions were taken previously in the speech on Capitol Hill, but then they were just more overt and explicit at the Capital One rally. Like, for example, you had on Capitol Hill, there was a big talk of how we're going to bring back a colorblind and merit-based America. And then when it came to Capital One Arena, it's a focus on we got to get these people out of here. They've treated us very badly. And it's a lot of just the bluster and belligerence that we've seen before. And no matter how you spruce it up, it's still a message that's not speaking to all Americans at the end of the day.
And so, let's talk a little bit about strategy. I mean, you work on a lot of speeches for a lot of leaders. What is it that you think Trump was trying to accomplish in this speech that may be different from what he was trying to accomplish in his first inaugural address?
And I think in the first inaugural address, we have to remember that it was coming from President Obama. There were 2 terms of a Democratic presidency beforehand, and he hadn't lost an election in between. And so while there was a focus on wanting to share and showcase what his agenda might be in that initial speech in 2017, we now see in 2025, it's more of a revenge tour. It's more of I've been here before, I've done this before, and now that I know there really aren't checks and balances on me, then I'm going to be able to do what I want. And so this speech was really about reaffirming his unapologetic nature of wanting to implement an agenda that he feels he has a mandate for, but at the end of the day, it's not something that resonates with a large amount of Americans.
Was there anything in Trump's inaugural address today that suggests that Trump 2.0 has actually learned a lot from Trump 1.0?
I think the lesson learned of Trump 2.0 is that there's not going to be any accountability. So why play within the guardrails that Trump 1.0 played in when you can literally have your supporters wreck and demolish the Capitol building and lead to no sort of accountability after egging on folks to do that. And so now it's just a really straight up focus, I believe, in implementing his agenda, no matter what people say, no matter what the laws say. Like even the upcoming attack against birthright citizenship, that is just clearly unconstitutional, is something that, who knows, with the control of all branches of government and multiple judges that he's appointed to the Supreme Court to have a majority, it's a strategy of being able to throw more things at the wall because there's not a risk of accountability or a negative impact toward him, but seeing what's going to be able to stick.
When we come forward, I want to dig into some of the facts and lack thereof in Trump's inaugural speech. I want to fact check a few things and, ask you straight up, do facts matter in, these big speeches anymore, or is it more, style over substance? Plus, I want to compare Trump's recent speeches with one of Biden's last speeches in Charleston, South Carolina, just this past weekend. When we come forward, more with Michael Franklin right here on A More Perfect Union, only here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice. You tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. For the third time, a presidential inauguration coincides with Martin Luther King Jr. Day, previously in 1997 and 2013. Across the U.S., MLK events continue, including Atlanta's beloved community center at Ebenezer Baptist Church, featuring keynote speaker Bishop William J. Barber II. President Trump is withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement again. First signed in 2015, the deal unites nearly 200 countries to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is announcing limited re-entry for wildfire evacuees. Residents can check re-entry info at lacity.gov and must show photo ID at checkpoints. And the Brooklyn Academy of Music is hosting its annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day tribute. Black Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul will be among the speakers at today's event aimed at honoring the civil rights leader. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
It's a fire burning in Mission Hills affecting the 405. This is northbound coming up on Rinaldi. Currently, they are diverting traffic off at Rinaldi and eventually probably to the 118. So you can get a head start on this if you're heading in that direction and don't go as far as the 118. Hit the surface streets in the area as an alternate, or even take the 170 to the 5 northbound as an alternate. That'll be helpful as well. Big delays for the 405, immediate delays off of the 118, but overall slowing out of Culver City, leaving the 90. It's tough on the 101 southbound as well. This is getting out of Calabasas from Lost Hills. You're on the brakes all the way to the 170, 134 split, slowing in Hollywood Sunset into downtown Los Angeles. And it's really tough into Long Beach. Heading into the ports at South 710 loads up from just about Del Amo all the way to Pico.
Shop limited time deals during Lowe's Pro Savings Days. Get a free adjustable stand when you buy a DeWalt 12-inch miter saw. That's a $229 value. Valid 1/13 through 1/24 while supplies last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
After the Lakers lost to the Clippers Sunday night, LeBron appeared to throw some criticism at Lakers management. LeBron said, and I quote, "The way our team is constructed, we have to play close to perfect basketball to win," end quote. The key element in LeBron's quote is the way our team is constructed, which means LeBron does not feel he and Anthony Davis have all the players they need to contend for the NBA championship. The Lakers are 2-4 in their last 6 games. They are 6th in the Western Conference, but only a game and a half ahead of 10th place Phoenix. Kawhi Leonard will not play in the Clippers home game tonight against Chicago. Leonard has been advised to sit out back-to-back games to rest his right knee. He had 19 points in 24 minutes last night against the Lakers. In his last 2 games, the improving Leonard is averaging 21 points and shooting 70%. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
To our beloved greater Los Angeles community affected by the devastating wildfires, we stand with you. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, our hearts go out to those who've lost loved ones, homes, businesses, belongings, and precious memories. In these challenging times, we're here to keep you informed and connected. For the latest updates, resources, and ways to help your neighbors in need, stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580. Together, we'll rebuild. Together, we'll recover. Together, we are Los Angeles strong. KBLA Talk 1580. Your voice, your community, your station.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are streaming and listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We're joined with Michael Franklin. He is the founder of Words Normalize Behavior. And if the words in today's inaugural address is normalizing any sort of behavior, we might have a problem. To our leaders, learners, and listeners that are a little less familiar about your organization, Words Normalize Behavior, tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so Words Normalize Behavior, we work with leaders in every industry and sector you can imagine in order to work with leaders who want to meet the moment. And so our mantra for 2025 has been, we're working with leaders who are not going to back down from their values, but they're ready to double down. Because at this time, we have to make sure that we're standing on what we believe in, regardless of the attacks we face. And we have to make sure that we're fighting for our community and we're fighting for us.
And I would imagine it's hard to meet the moment if you ignore the facts. And it's been widely reported by the New York Times and other outlets that President Trump is repeating inaccurate claims in his inaugural remarks. They fact-checked him. A lot of other outlets have been fact-checking him. For example, he says, for months, Mr. Trump, he claimed in other countries like Venezuela, we're dumping millions of criminals into the United States through the southern border. And he tempered the claim to the more unspecific many in his inauguration address. But immigration experts have said that they could not corroborate Mr. Trump's claim of millions of criminal migrants, nor is there any evidence that other countries were emptying prisons to send convicted criminals to the United States. Talk to us about the world that we live in right now. Have we crossed the point of no return in terms of style over substance, not just winning the headlines, but going unchecked?
Yeah, and I think so. There's a few different pieces that have like built this conundrum that I want to actually break down a little bit where we're at. So, like, we live in a soundbite ecosystem, in a soundbite economy, essentially, where folks are looking for that headline. You pair that with the fact that attention spans are down. You pair that with the fact that there's a literacy crisis going on in this nation. You pair that with the fact that mis and disinformation is rising. And what you get from that is folks are going to hear things and they're going to hear maybe a sentence or so. And from that sentence, it may not be true. They may not understand the full sentence, but at the end of the day, they're going to grapple with what they're familiar with. And as a result, be able to take in and bring in that information. And so, yes, style matters way more than substance at this point, because a lot of the substance isn't breaking through. Some because of a genuine lack of understanding, and some because folks just simply don't have an eye to pay attention to it as much anymore.
And when you are the leader of the quote unquote free world, when you have the bully pulpit of the presidency of the United States, you are unmatched in terms of being able to have anybody really overshadow you or overtake you in the soundbite economy. I mean, like, the president of the United States, is probably the most, watched and heard leader in the world, and is a soundbite machine, particularly this president.
Absolutely. And when you have that platform and you have that podium that is unmatched from anyone else, where any sentence you say could completely change the trajectory of the global economy, could change the trajectory of how countries are interacting and engaging with one another. Yeah, we're at a very big risk when we now have a leader of the free world who might say anything, regardless of if it's rooted in facts, regardless if it's rooted in substance, but rather if it's something that's going to spur the action that drives his agenda forward.
Do you think that this reality, that at least this theory that you're offering up, that we're living in this soundbite economy, we are experiencing this literacy crisis, this mis and disinformation crisis? I take your point on that. Is it your opinion that these things played a more significant role than we think in the latest election, for example? Or if we're spinning the wheel, if you look at the emergency crisis in Los Angeles related to the wildfires, if you look at the emergency response to Hurricanes Milton and Helene, right? This crisis, this multi-pronged crisis, as you've articulated it, is it more of a challenge than we have been willing to admit?
1,000%, because I think there's a lot of folks who are grasping on to this idea that we can help folks find reason at the end of the day by finding like a common playing ground of the same set of facts that we can all work upon. And while we may disagree, we may be able to still make bridges in some way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, that's just not the playing field that seems tenable anymore, because what we see is folks and consumers tend to want to consume what they're familiar with. They want to have their ideas validated, whether it's rooted in fact or not. And as a result, you see a lot of echo chambers existing where it's tough to break through to new audiences, and it's tough to have any sort of successful persuasion towards audiences that you may have of, hey, what you heard is actually mis or disinformation, or that's actually not true. Because folks have the messengers they're comfortable and credible with, and they're going to take what they say as gospel, regardless of if they are brought any type of contradictory facts or platform to the equation.
Well, in other news, Erica L. Green of the New York Times reporting that President Biden spent his final full day in office in South Carolina, a state he credits for helping catapult him to the White House, where he returned in his final hours as president to urge his supporters to stay engaged in the fight for a more just nation. During the visit to a historically Black church and the African American Museum, Mr. Biden reflected on his history with the place that he said had played a pivotal role in his life and career and that pushed him in his efforts to restore the soul of the nation. You are a genius when it comes to integrating story, those sort of lean in stories, as I like to think of them, and how you use stagecraft to really help the speech come alive. Talk to us about the brownie points that you would give President Biden and his team for the speech he delivered in South Carolina and the stagecraft, how they set it up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with storytelling, folks forget that there's more than just the words that you're delivering, but it really is about making something that people can feel, whether they're visualizing it, whether they're able to have something that they can recognize and have a sense of familiarity with. And so with the team having this full circle moment was, I think, a great ending point in terms of being able to end with a message of hope and optimism, culminating in the term, and being able to have a moment that folks are going to remember. If they weren't actively tuned into politics as much, they were tuned in at that initial moment in the primaries, or they remember that point. And having just even that implicit memory point of being able to catch some eyes and attention, it's going to make that story resonate a bit better than choosing something else as a way to finish that story.
And also sort of remembering the people who brought you to the dance. You know, we all know that Black folks in South Carolina saved the Biden campaign that was really running on fumes at that point. It was the South Carolinians, their confidence in Biden. I remember being at that South Carolina debate when he turned a lot of heads, when he pledged to appoint the first Black woman to the Supreme Court, and did. Also turned a lot of heads when Representative Jim Clyburn had said, we know Joe and Joe knows us. And that's all people needed to know to throw their support behind him, and the rest is history. Talk to us about the importance of staying connected to the people that bring you to the dance, and how that can turn any good speech into a memorable and, dare I say, consequential speech.
I think the number one thing I always am reminding leaders I work with is to know your audience. And your base and your audience is key toward anything you want to resonate. Because if you disregard that base that's been your audience to listen to you, then you're going to not build an audience that knows who you are, knows what you mean, knows what you're saying, and an audience that would even give you the benefit of the doubt if something troublesome comes up, And so by being able to have that moment to remind Black voters that, yes, I know you, I see you, and we're going to culminate the term by talking about how Black voters were the optimism and the hope that ended up buoying the campaign forward for President Biden, is how Black voters and Black people are going to buoy the hope and the faith in the future of the United States after this too.
Michael, in our final moments, I can't pass up the opportunity to get a little bit of free advice for our leaders, learners, and listeners. It dawned on me that there are folks who are listening who, may have various levels of comfort in terms of delivering speeches and presentations and things. It's a new year, and for a lot of people, a new year means a new you. And so for folks that are looking to, be even better presenters and better at delivering speeches and just public communications, are there 2 or 3 tips that you would offer folks up so that they might deliver the kind of speech or presentation that is all the more memorable?
Absolutely. So first would be, remember that you are not alone. The fear of public speaking is one of the largest fears of anyone, like in all of existence, to the point like more people are scared of public speaking than scared of things like spiders or snakes, you know? And then secondly, I would say the more that you talk, you really want to become a professional yapper. And so think of those low stakes moments where you can be comfortable in conversation, like conversations like this with you, Nii-Quartelai. Like you want to have opportunities to be comfortable and to be able to talk with folks you know. Because if you're comfortable talking, then you'll be able to be more prepared when you're in audiences that you might not be as comfortable in front of.
Now, you're the expert, but if I might add something to what you've just said, as somebody who talks a lot for a living, I've found that whether you're writing or speaking, that if you think about what you want to say as a prayer, right, it takes the edge off, right? Because anybody can pray, right? Short prayer, long prayer, whatever it is, right? But chances are you're praying in your voice, right? You're praying in a way that is meaningful, that's personal to you, right? And a prayer is really, it's a hope, it's a wish, it's a desire, it is what it is that you're trying to manifest. And so, sometimes, you may sit at the computer and stare at the computer, like, okay, I don't know what to write, I don't know where to start. My advice to folks is start to think about what you want to say as a prayer and then work from that.
Absolutely, because a prayer is a testament of your voice. And we have to have comfort in our voice if we want to be great at public speaking. So I think that's excellent advice.
Well, that means a lot coming from you. I always enjoy talking to you and learning from you and unpacking this historic day with you. And we can't wait to have you back on again, as I'm sure there are a lot more important speeches that President Trump and members of his cabinet are going to deliver, particularly in these first 100 days. And so please come back again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Our thanks to Michael Franklin. Again, he is the founder of Words Normalize Behavior. He's also founder of Speech Writers of Color. And so if you are looking for an expert to connect you to folks that can add value to your work, you're looking at him if you're streaming, and you're listening to him if you're on the road. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. The quiet part out loud.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Attention Los Angeles County renters and landlords. Starting January 1st, 2025, there are new rules limiting rent increases for rent-stabilized units in unincorporated LA County. Most rent-stabilized units will have rent increases capped at 2.565% from January through June 2025, with exceptions for qualified small property landlords and luxury units. To learn more about the new changes, visit rent.lacounty.gov. This message is brought to you by Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step.
Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their program. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's about that time for the quiet part out loud. Now, Trump is set to make history as he takes office for the second time. He already has, but all history isn't always the most flattering history. He will become the first president with a felony conviction. Trump is the first U.S. president to take office while holding a felony conviction. And as reported by the Griot, Trump is the first U.S. president to have been impeached twice by the House of Representatives and returned to office. Trump is the first president in modern political polling to begin his tenure with a net negative approval rating. And at 78 years old, Trump surpasses Joe Biden to become the oldest individual inaugurated as president in U.S. history. Trump's swearing in is only the second in history to coincide with Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the first being Bill Clinton in 1997, although there's some that say that in 2013, it also coincided with President Obama's inauguration. And so those are just a few tidbits there that remind us that all history isn't necessarily the best history, but it is history nonetheless. And speaking of history, right now,
Playing from Nii-Quartelai Quartey's iPhone.
According to C-SPAN, President Trump has signed executive orders pardoning approximately 1,500 people for events that occurred on January 6th, 2021, with 6 commutations. So this is not even his first full day in office. And 1,500 people are being pardoned for events that occurred on January 6th, 2021. He said he would do it, and he's doing what he said he would do. No surprises there. Speaking of pardons, President Biden, just before he left office, he pardoned 5 more folks, including civil rights leader Marcus Garvey. That's right. President Biden pardoned 5 activists and public servants on Sunday, including a posthumous grant of clemency to the civil rights leader Marcus Garvey, who mobilized the Black nationalist movement and was convicted of mail fraud back in 1923. Mr. Biden also commuted the sentences of 2 people who are serving sentences for crimes that they committed in the 1990s that would keep them behind bars for the rest of their lives. The 2 individuals, Robin Peoples and Michelle West, had overwhelming support from civil rights activists and will be released next month. It was really the latest act of clemency in Mr. Biden's final week in office, many of which have highlighted Mr. Biden's long-standing relationship among Black communities and his evolution on civil rights and criminal justice. And so the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was very pleased. They said, quotes, "This list is not only important because of each and every individual that's represented on it, but it's also important because of the broader story that it tells about the failures of our criminal justice system." During a visit to the Royal Missionary Baptist Church, which is a pretty storied Black church near Charleston, South Carolina, Biden said that his decisions reflected how he had come to view the power of redemption. Power of redemption. Still, so many brothers and sisters and siblings deserving of that redemption, but it seems that a number of them got a dose of that, certainly within the past couple days, from two very different presidents. When we come forward, we are going to be transitioning into our second hour. Do you have any relatives with dementia or Alzheimer's, or have you been tracking dementia and Alzheimer's in the news recently? Well, when we come forward, we're going to be talking to not one, but two experts in the field to get our arms around some of the stories that are trending related to the fight against those diseases. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Things you should know with BIN News. Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th president beginning his second term. He's set to declare a border emergency, rescind Biden's DEI directives, and roll back drilling restrictions. President Trump took the oath today without placing his hand on the Bible, using both his family Bible and the Lincoln Bible, previously used by Abraham Lincoln and Barack Obama. LA officials are warning of extreme wildfire danger as a red flag warning with a particularly dangerous situation is in effect. Black Mayor Karen Bass